The Master's Mysteries, Tales of Magical Mastery, Episode 39. Let me tell you about Zhang Old Dao's background and origin. Old Dao is right. The Zhang family was indeed the richest family in the whole Funyu town several decades ago. The ancestral mansion of the Zhang family was unparalleled in the town. With such a family fortune, Old Dao could have done nothing and just lazed around, enjoying life for generations without running out of money. However, he didn't do that. Old Dao was an expert in indulging in food, drink, and entertainment. Even worse, he eventually fell into the vice of gambling. As the saying goes, continuous gambling brings endless loss. Once he fell into this pit, there was no way out. After squandering the family fortune, he even went so far as to sell land and properties, and eventually, he even lost the ancestral mansion to someone else. Win and lose, it's all part of the game. Well done. Next round. Everyone. If you don't have money, get out of my way. The local big gamblers knew the tricks of the trade, and they wouldn't let anyone get away with taking advantage. One day, Old Dao lost 3 rounds in a row and was left with nothing. He was thrown out of the gambling table. Still borrowing. Zhang Young Master, do you think I'm a saint? Old Dao couldn't stop gambling when his addiction was at its peak. He went to the back room of the gambling den and looked for another table. Another 5 taels. 5 taels will be enough. Your land on the West Mountain is not worth that much anymore. At that moment, as Old Dao was desperately begging, the curtain at the door was lifted, and someone walked in. As soon as Old Dao heard the voice, he was terrified. What? You dare to deceive me? Tell me the truth, or I'll break all your limbs. The man lost all patience and gave Old Dao a severe beating. Stripped naked, Old Dao was dragged out into a small alley behind the gambling den. The sight was pitiful. Ah! Give me 100 taels of silver, or I'll break all your limbs. Everyone in town owes us. Damn it. After being beaten up, Old Dao was covered in injuries and collapsed naked in the small alley behind the gambling den. His situation couldn't be worse. At that moment, an old Taoist with a youthful appearance and a celestial aura passed by the small alley. He happened to see Old Dao. Tianfu, what's wrong with you? Nonsense. Old Dao was still using his secular name, Zhang Tianfu, back then. He turned around to see the old Taoist, whom he recognized. The Taoist was a good friend of his father when he was still alive, and they used to study Taoist teachings together. You're so long-winded. Tianfu, come with me to the mountain. Back then, the Taoist always claimed to have a profound connection with the Tao and repeatedly asked Old Dao's father to take him as a disciple and bring him to the mountain to study Tao. Old Dao's father was truly tempted. You can give up on that idea. But he firmly refused. Why should he be destined to be a Taoist and follow this insufferable old Taoist? He hadn't had enough of his carefree life yet. Having been scolded by the old Taoist with no face and no manners, Old Dao was left feeling agitated inside. He shook his head and left. It seemed like his brain had frozen, making him smarter. Old Dao suddenly remembered that his father had secretly placed a wooden box in the brick wall of the backyard when he was still alive and had specifically instructed him. Thinking of this, Old Dao became excited. When his father was alive and the family was flourishing, whatever his father had hidden must be a valuable treasure. He was very familiar with this mansion. After entering through the back door used for coal transportation, he looked around to ensure there was no one, and then he felt along the stone wall for a while. And sure enough, he made a discovery. Old Dao suppressed his excited emotions, looked around cautiously, and then gently lifted the inconspicuous stone brick. A square object wrapped in red cloth was hidden in the brick cavity. That was exactly what father had concealed during his lifetime. This large mansion had already been lost to someone else. Old Dao was trespassing on private property, and if caught, the consequences would be unclear. So he didn't dare delay and immediately ran away while holding the item. With a heart full of anxiety, he walked around in circles and returned to the alley where he was previously beaten. There, he carefully opened the wooden box. However, to his disappointment, there was no gold or silver inside. Instead, there was a piece of paper and a letter. Old Dao furrowed his brow as he unfolded the paper and looked by the moonlight. His heart suddenly jumped with excitement. The paper turned out to be a property deed, and after a careful examination, he realized that it was for a large mansion located on the southern hill of the town. It was surprising to find out that this mansion also belonged to his family. Seeing this, Old Dao's heart warmed up. He knew well about that large estate, which was very grand. If he were to sell it, it would definitely be worth several tens of thousands of taels of silver. The next morning, after enduring hunger, Old Dao took the purple sandwood box to the pawn shop and exchanged it for a dozen or so taels of silver. He used the money to buy new clothes and treated himself to a hearty breakfast. Finally, he felt alive and well again. With a full stomach and restored energy, Old Dao made his way to the southern hill of the town, following the instructions in the property deed, and arrived at the mansion. The estate covered several acres and was grand, almost on par with an imperial city. Old Dao couldn't help but marvel at its splendor. "Hey, are you going to the Zhang family mansion? That place is deserted." Just as he was about to go in and investigate, intending to find a trustworthy pawnbroker to assess the value for selling, someone stopped him. "You can't go in." "What do you mean?" "It's my family's mansion. Why can't I go in?" Upon hearing the person's tone, Old Dao was furious. It seemed that the person didn't recognize his identity and dared to block his way. "Are you the young master of the Zhang family? Mr. Zhang is a good person and has always taken care of us." Upon hearing Old Dao revealing his identity, the person became respectful. Old Dao's father had a high reputation, and everyone respected him. However, the person still seemed hesitant while facing Old Dao. "But your family's, the mansion, is haunted." "What?" "Old man, don't spread rumors." As the person stuttered while explaining the reason for stopping him, Old Dao's brows furrowed. "It's true. In this area, I've also seen it once. Many people have seen it." Seeing that Old Dao was unconvinced, the person started talking about the rumors surrounding the mansion. The story goes that this area of Zhang family's mansion, once built, was comparable to an imperial city. However, after the mansion was completed, Old Dao's father didn't come to live there and even left no caretakers. Under such circumstances, it inevitably attracted the attention of some unsavory characters. "Really, no one lives there. Such a waste." "Yeah, such a shame." Though they knew there might not be any gold or silver inside, the furniture and decorations in the mansion were of high value. If they could steal a few items, they would definitely fetch a good price. "It's convenient for us to act now." The two local ruffians made up their minds and decided to sneak into the mansion one night. But as they were about to enter the main hall, one of them suddenly heard some strange noises coming from the courtyard. Out of instinct, the person turned around and saw a peculiar dark figure quickly darting across the corner gate. Due to its speed, they couldn't make out what it was. "What are you looking at? Hurry up and come in." The other ruffian was impatient and thought his companion might be seeing things, so he urged him to continue. Both of them refrained from lighting any candles and stealthily entered the hall. Surprisingly, despite being unoccupied for a long time, the room was still very clean, without dust or any foul smell. Everything was neat and tidy. But when they looked towards the center, they were both stunned. In the middle of the room was a shrine, but instead of a Buddha statue or spirit tablet, there was a powerful stroke of the Chinese character meaning God. At this point, the two ruffians didn't care about the strangeness anymore. Their focus was on the candlesticks and incense burners glinting with silver. These items would be worth quite a bit of money. They were overjoyed and began stuffing them into a cloth bag. "Ha! Something's not right. How come they don't look freshly lit? Quick, let's move quickly." One of the ruffians was about to pick up an exquisite large incense burner, but he suddenly froze as he realized something was off. Suddenly, a strange howl echoed above them, and the two ruffians were scared witless. They were so frightened that they wet their pants and found their legs trembling, unable to move. Before the two could react, the strange creature above their heads swiftly pounced down, with its terrifying, disheveled head hanging low, and its blood-red eyes coldly staring at them. Without giving the two a chance to react, the creature let out a loud roar, opened its bloodthirsty mouth wide, and charged towards them. The two ruffians had never encountered such a terrifying scene before, and they were petrified. Their pants were wet, and their legs refused to move. Then, a series of hysterical screams echoed through the Zhang family mansion.